What's up, fam? It's your boy, Max Mogren, reporting live for you. This is Wake Up Wyoming here at Wake Up News, broadcasting to you from beautiful Alpine, Wyoming. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We got a big show ahead of us. Top headline there, you're probably wondering, 230 reasons to stockpile orange juice concentrate after Irma. USA Today reporting today, get ready for a major price hike for orange juice thanks to Hurricane Irma decimating much of Florida's orange crop. Experts say OJ prices could jump by as much as $2.30 per gallon. Good morning, Jason Eisenhardt. Good morning, Brian Peterson. Good to see you guys here. We got 26 viewers already. Just getting into it. Again, orange juice prices expected to go up by $2.30 per gallon in the wake of Hurricane Irma, according to the mainstream misleadia at the USA Today. Good afternoon, Melanie. Ralph Shelton, thanks for joining us today. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll get right into it. So, yeah, orange juice on the rise. It's just the way it is. You know what I can do, actually? This is kind of cool. I just realized I can just copy and paste that into the comment section. Bam. So, yeah, there's your headline there, right there. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's get going. Yellowstone Supervolcano. USA Today also reporting typical fear-mongering from the mainstream media. The Yellowstone Supervolcano may blow sooner than thought and could wipe out life on the planet. Of course, the Yellowstone Supervolcano is not that far from here. Jackson Hole Daily today, they're not really worried about the Yellowstone Supervolcano in typical fashion. The closer you are to the dam, the less likely you are to be worried about it failing, right? Same sort of thing with the Yellowstone Supervolcano. They're concerned about the visual impact of a new cell tower constructed on a mountain there in Yellowstone. But USA Today reporting today that it's actually kind of wild, I have to say. You know, I tend not to really worry about things that are totally outside of human control, like the Yellowstone Supervolcano. It's like if it erupts, it erupts. You know, it happens every 400,000 or 500,000 years. We're past due for an eruption. But the key thing here, according to National Geographic, the researchers from Arizona State University analyzed minerals in fossilized ash from the most recent mega eruption and found changes in temperature and composition that had only taken a few decades. Until now, the magazine reported, geologists had thought it would take centuries for the supervolcano to make the transition. The discovery, which was presented at a recent volcanology conference, comes on top of a 2011 study that found that ground above the magma reservoir in Yellowstone had bulged by about 10 inches in 7 years. So, yeah, it's an extraordinary uplift because it covers such a large area and the rates are so high. The University of Utah's Bob Smith, an expert in Yellowstone volcanism, told the magazine, that's National Geographic, at the time. So I'm not really big on fear-mongering here at Wake Up Wyoming. Edward Strine chiming in. Is the Bohemian Grove really on fire? Send me a link. Please drop a link into the comments there. That's pretty wild at a time when it seems like a lot of Hollywood bigwigs are going down, the power structure kind of cannibalizing itself, as expected, when you got a bunch of crazy, delusional psychopaths running the show. Every once in a while, they stop screwing us and start screwing each other instead. So that's nice to see. But please drop a link in there if the Bohemian Grove is truly on fire. It's a beautiful stand of redwoods. I've been there myself, not as a guest, but as a visitor nonetheless. Back to Yellowstone, though. This came out a few months ago, and I think it's important to note now that the mainstreams loves fear-mongering, loves the fear porn, the Yellowstone volcano, a great way to make people feel totally powerless and hopeless, because what you going to do about a super volcano? I don't know where I'm going to go when the volcano blow, and you probably don't either, but I think we're going to be okay. IFL Science, aka I friggin' love science. People told me to tone down my swear words, so I'm going to try to do that. There's a link for y'all. NASA scientists, a team at NASA has come up with a rather audacious plan to actually prevent the Yellowstone supervolcano from erupting. They want to drill into the magma chamber and cool it down. is first reported by BBC Future and is seen by IFL Science. A study by the Space Agency's Jet Propulsion Laboratory essentially confirmed that the threat of a supervolcanic eruption was far more prescient than that of an asteroid or cometary impact. Though prediction methods may one day reveal precisely when such supervolcanoes will erupt, for now, the best that can be done is to prepare for the worst, says IFL Science. A little fear-mongering from them, too. But the key thing there, it's important to note, most people don't realize this, but I have to stress it because it's important. Yellowstone National Park was not actually the first national park. The first national park established by the federal government was Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas. And the reason the federal government grabbed Hot Springs National Park years before Yellowstone, I think Yellowstone was grabbed in 1872, Hot Springs 1865, because it was a huge geothermal resource and they wanted to control it. Of course, geothermal power, remember back in the 1860s, we lived in the era of steam power, and whoever controlled the steam power supplies would, they had a distinct advantage. Of course, the government decided to sit on steam power, the geothermal power in Yellowstone, the geothermal power in Hot Springs National Park, because it was a threat to their buddies in the coal industry. And we're going to see some more, King Coal refuses to die. King Coal wears no clothes, but he don't care. He's still getting after it. We might as well jump into that right now. If you haven't heard about it, Secretary of Energy Rick Perry's plan to bolster the power grid. Again, we're looking at the Jackson Hole Daily, the paper servicing the wealthiest county per capita in North America. I don't live there. I live 35 miles south of there. And I certainly ain't wealthy, although I am rather resourceful and thrifty. Rick Perry defends plan to bolster U.S. power grid. What's this really all about? Well, the key thing here, Perry said the plan is needed to help prevent widespread outages, such as those caused by hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria. The agency plan would compensate power plant owners to maintain a 90-day fuel supply protected against the elements, and is expected to cost billions of dollars. Okay? People are asking why the punching bag is moving. The punching bag is moving because my little dog there was just getting her workout in. That's Maestra, the Mexican Wonder Mutt. I'm going to go grab her and have her say hi to y'all. But, yeah, key thing here. Hey, baby. Hi. Come here. Oh. I know cute sells, so maybe we'll get some more viewers if I got the dog here punching on the keyboard, right? My little assistant here keeping us all informed. Thank you, Maestra. Actually, I've learned more from this dog than anybody else. But the key thing here with this power plant thing is that the people like the dog. I like that. The key thing with this power plant thing is that Rick Perry and the boys, it's easy to keep a 90-day fuel supply on hand at a nuclear power plant because you're just using fuel rods that last for, they have a half-life of 24,000 years. And it's easy to keep a 90-day fuel supply of coal around a power plant because you just pile up a big-ass pile of coal, big mound of coal, you got your 90-day fuel supply. Plus, it's super cheap. Whereas natural gas, think of how big a tank you would need to keep 90 days worth of natural gas on site at a power plant. It's a huge tank. And obviously it'd be a very expensive tank to build and, kind of dangerous. I'd say that's kind of a threat to terrorism. With solar and wind, you can't really keep a 90-day fuel supply on hand, right? Of course, the Yellowstone Supervolcano has an infinite supply of fuel on hand. And unfortunately, Yellowstone's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. There's lots of great animals up there. It's a wonderful tourist attraction. It's a relatively pristine ecosystem, although historically there were no elk or buffalo up there. In fact, there weren't that many large mammals at all. Got the book to prove it here. Playing God in Yellowstone by Alston Chase. But the key thing is that geothermal power could power the entire United States. the U.S. has this great resource in the Yellowstone caldera. You know, it's a great threat because it could blow up someday, but it's also a huge potential power supply. And as it says in our headlines there, the Yellowstone Supervolcano expanding almost as fast as Americans' waistlines. WebMD reporting on Tuesday that childhood obesity is up worldwide almost tenfold. Childhood obesity has increased more than tenfold worldwide since 1975, a new study reports. But even more children are underweight than severely overweight, according to analysis of data from 200 countries. Researchers found that by 2016, overall obesity rates had jumped from less than 1% to almost 6% for girls and nearly 8% for boys, with rates of 20% or higher in the United States, Egypt, and some Polynesian islands. So, wow, right? Goes on and on. Childhood obesity up, pretty disturbing. I'm going to put Miss Maestra down. Here you go, baby. Nice and easy. Because I got to pick up the paper here again. Jackson Hole Daily, servicing the wealthiest county per capita in North America. I don't live there. I'm not wealthy. But recently, I've been afflicted by a severe case of don't give a fuck. What do we got? There's some good here. Speaking of obesity, Jackson Hole Daily picking up a similar story today. Study says U.S. obesity rates not improving. Okay, here at Wake Up Wyoming, we encourage all of you to stay active, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, try to eat as healthy as you can afford to, because Lord knows there's a lot of poisonous food out there. Poisonous food, poisonous water, even poison occasionally raining down from the skies in the form of aerosolized nanoparticles of aluminum, barium, strontium, and God knows what other toxic shit. New York, AP. America's weight problem isn't getting any better, according to new government research. Overall, obesity figures stayed about the same, about 40% for adults, and 18.5% of children are obese. Those numbers are a slight increase from the last report, but the difference is so small that it could have occurred by chance. Worrisome to experts is the rate for children and teenagers, which has hovered around 17% for a decade. The 2 to 5 age group had the biggest rise. Okay, the 40% rate for adults is statistically about the same as the nearly 38% in the 2013-14 survey. The fattest adults are in their 40s and 50s, 41% of men and 45% of women. But here's where it's really disturbing. Among children, the rate for the 12 to 19 age group was the same at nearly 21%. For kids 6 to 11, it rose to 18% from 17%. But for children ages 2 to 5, the rate of childhood obesity jumped to 14% from about 9%. So sad, you know. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, it's because Americans are lazy. It's because Americans sit in front of their TVs all day. It's because Americans eat junk food. Well, I would counter that with, I think it's because Americans are stressed out. Americans are impoverished. Americans are being poisoned with things like Monsanto's glyphosate pesticides. Americans are being poisoned with toxic water. Americans are being poisoned with toxic vaccines. Americans are being poisoned with toxic air. And the healthy food is too expensive for most people. You know, you go to the grocery store, you want to buy organic, you might spend 2, 3, 4 times as much on the same item, right? You can go get some shitty eggs for $1. You can get a dozen shitty eggs for $1, whereas the organic eggs are going to cost you $4 to $5. You can go get a shitty loaf of bread for $1, whereas a loaf of bread that's not going to kill you, that's not going to make you fat, is going to cost you $4 or $5, right? You spend 4 to 5 times as much on the healthy stuff. It's sad. You can go buy a gallon of milk filled with pus and all sorts of nasty shit from some poor cow who's being fed hormones. It'll cost you $1 or $2, but the good milk, you're going to spend twice that for half as much. Pretty similar, or pretty simple situation there, right? Americans might be fat for the reasons we just said. And Heidi Goetz chiming in, by design, absolutely. Remember, there's no money to be made off of dead people once their funeral's paid for. There's no money to be made off of healthy people, but right in the middle there, sick people, fat people, people who are dependent on the system just to stay alive, people who are dependent on pharmaceutical drugs just to stay alive. There's a lot of money to be made there. Of course, that also masks the fact that the economy is really not growing, and we're not really consuming more resources except for like pills and painkillers, heroin, stuff like that. And of course, overpriced food. So it looks like the economy is doing well when actually the average consumer's purchasing power is diminishing, spending more money on the basic essentials of human life. Thank you all for tuning in. I got great comments in here. Thank you so much for your comments. What's our next headline? So we covered the 200 reasons to stockpile orange juice. That's because Hurricane Irma wiped out the Florida crop, and they're estimating the price of orange juice could go up as much as $2.30 per gallon. USA Today warns us that the Yellowstone Supervolcano is going to kill us all, but I think obesity is probably going to kill more Americans first. NASA wants to harness the geothermal power of Yellowstone to save the planet. I think that's a great idea. Let's go for it. And then Perry's plan to bolster the electrical grid is a cricket scam to prop up obsolete coal and nuclear power industries. Moving on to Puerto Rico, okay? Old Trumpo, the divider-in-chief, the distractor-in-chief, the billionaire who doesn't seem to really care about the working man whatsoever, but he sure tricked a lot of people into thinking he does, has attacked the Puerto Ricans. Where is my article on that? Now I can see why I usually go through this thing chronologically, but I'm trying to mix up the format, keep it interesting. So bear with me as I find this article. Here's a fun story as we're getting there. Utah Canyon renamed after years of debate. Negro Bill Canyon down by Moab, beautiful area of Moab. If you've never been there, it's like a different planet. It's absolutely fabulous. But they have renamed Negro Bill Canyon Grand Staff Canyon. Makes me wonder how this African-American rancher Bill got the nickname Grand Staff. Probably for one reason or another. Here we go. Trump turns versus Puerto Rico. President Trump lashed out at hurricane-devastated Puerto Rico on Thursday, insisting in tweets that the federal government can't keep sending help forever. Okay, it's been 3 weeks. People are still starving to death. 85% of the island doesn't have power, and FEMA is only providing 200,000 meals per day to an island where 3.4 million Americans live. Sounds to me like the response has not been adequate. And 3 weeks ain't forever. Maybe Trump's a little impatient because he's gotten everything he's wanted handed to him on a silver platter since the day he was born. His broadsides triggered an outcry from Democrats in Washington and officials on the island that has been reeling since Hurricane Maria struck 3 weeks ago. San Juan Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz, who has had a running war of words with Trump, tweeted that the president's comments were unbecoming of a commander and seemed more to come from a hater-in-chief. Mr. President, you seem to want to disregard the moral imperative that your administration has been unable to fulfill, the mayor said. The debate played out as the House passed on a sweeping vote a $36.5 billion disaster aid package that includes assistance for Puerto Rico. Okay, they don't say in this article how much of that money is actually going to Puerto Rico, right? Hurricane Harvey hit Houston. Hurricane Irma hit Florida. So how much is going to Puerto Rico? I don't know. Puerto Rico is deep in debt already. 45 deaths in Puerto Rico have been blamed on Maria, and about 85% of Puerto Ricans still lack electricity, which may not be restored for months. Okay? Wow. Talk about holding people's feet to the fire, right? Puerto Rico, largely a tourist-based economy, agriculture-based economy. You don't have power, you're screwed. Right, David, showing that he's mad there. I'm mad too. It really pisses me off. Democrats said Trump's tweets were deplorable. 1/3 of the island, home to 3 million U.S. citizens, lacks clean running water, and just 8% of its roads are passable, according to government statistics. Okay, the United States has the largest military budget in the world. If they were serious about helping the Puerto Ricans, They could take some aircraft carriers full of troops. They could take, they could spend some of that money they spend waging war all over the world and get busy fixing Puerto Rico. It's not rocket science. It'd probably be the humanitarian and noble thing to do. Instead, what's happening in Puerto Rico, a lot of the people are leaving. It's sad, but they don't have any money. They don't have any jobs. They don't have any electricity. They don't have any food. A lot of them don't have any water to drink even. So, they're moving. They're moving to the mainland. Bloomberg reporting today that Puerto Rico needs 250,000 gallons of diesel a day just to pump water. Puerto Rico's water system is being run almost entirely off diesel-fueled generators. And once the Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority brings even more generation online to pump and store water across the island, it'll be using 250,000 gallons of diesel a day, okay? The agency's getting about 40,000 gallons of diesel a day through FEMA, with the rest coming from private suppliers. Okay, so Puerto Rico's screwed. FEMA is not helping out that much. 40,000 gallons of diesel a day is not nearly what they need just to pump water, let alone drive heavy machinery to repair things or get supplies around the island, right? So Puerto Rico getting thrown to the wolves, so to speak. What's going to happen? All these people are going to leave Puerto Rico as designed. Remember, we live in the era of weather warfare. Okay, these hurricanes could have been weakened. They could have been steered away from high population areas. Instead, Puerto Rico decimated by the most powerful hurricane in 85 years. To see what's going to happen in Puerto Rico, let's take a look at Houston. Zero Hedge reporting today that Vulture investors swarm to Houston as flooded homes sell for 40 cents on the dollar. The time to buy is when there's blood in the streets, but they modify that to say the time to buy is after there's water in the streets. As thousands of families along the Texas shoreline continue to struggle with putting their lives back together following the apocalyptic landfall of Hurricane Harvey roughly 6 weeks ago, Vulture investors are increasingly swooping in to exploit their misery with offers to buy flooded homes for cents on the dollar. As Bloomberg points out this morning, one such investor is Brian Schild, who has sourced capital from local hard money lenders to scoop up 30 flooded homes for as little as 40 cents on the dollar. Okay? Brian Schild drives through the byways of Houston looking for what could be the investment opportunity of a lifetime. Homes selling for as little as 40 cents on the dollar. We pay cash for flooded homes. Don't fix it, sell it, quick close. Read the signs piled in the back seat of his Ford pickup. Schild stopped by a ranch-style house where 74-year-old Paul Matlock lives with his wife, disabled from multiple sclerosis. Matlock is desperate to leave and is considering Schild's offer of $120,000, half the home's value 3 weeks earlier. A half dozen other investors have made offers, one as low as $55,000 on a house that was worth $240,000. The whole thing makes me feel like there's a bunch of vultures sitting on my back fence, Matlock says. They're waiting for the dead body to fall over. It's axiomatic on Wall Street that the time to buy is when fear overtakes greed, when blood, or in this case water, is in the streets. Now some are eyeing the billions of dollars in hurricane-ravaged property in Texas and Florida and deciding it may be the time to take out their checkbooks. Investors such as Schild figure they can buy low, either fix up and flip the houses or rent them out for several years and then load them later, doubling their money or more. And if exploiting the elderly isn't enough to make you a little queasy, how about taking advantage of a disabled Army vet who has been forced to live out of a hotel room and eat 2 meals a day just to save a little cash after he lost his home to Hurricane Harvey? Of course, so situation's bad in Houston. As expected, vulture investors swooping in. The same thing's going to happen in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is an international tax haven, right? Puerto Rico can't go independent. There's a strong independence push in Puerto Rico, but they can't go independent if the United States military is knocking on the door asking for the $75 billion that they owed already, and now they owe quite a bit more after this hurricane. Of course, the people there are not getting what they need. They're not getting the fuel and food and water or a timely response to repair the electrical grid. Again, FEMA only providing 200,000 meals a day to an island where 3.4 million Americans live. FEMA only providing 40,000 gallons of diesel fuel a day to an island where it takes at least 250,000 gallons just to pump water, let alone rebuild, run machinery, fix the roads, right? So it's heartbreaking to see this. Again, we covered this a few weeks ago. Puerto Rico is an international tax haven, so the billionaires are going to swoop in, take over this paradise island, and it's your classic gentrification in the wake of a geoengineered event. So, can't stress that enough. Another interesting, strange, disturbing geoengineering / terrorism news, the grim search as wildfires grow in Sonoma County, 8 counties in California. Teams with cadaver dogs began a grim search Thursday for more dead in parts of California wine country, devastated by wildfires, resorting in some cases to serial numbers stamped on medical implants to identify remains that turned up in the charred ruins. Talk about a depressing article. Many of the flames still burn out of control in fires that span more than 300 square miles, an area equivalent to the size of New York City's 5 boroughs. A forecast for gusty winds and dry air threatened to fan the wildfires, which claimed their 29th victim and are fast becoming the deadliest and most destructive fires in California history. A few residents in Calistoga, they evacuated the entire city. This is a mandatory evacuation order. Your presence in Calistoga is not welcome if you are not a first responder, said Mayor Chris Canning, explaining that firefighters needed to focus on the blazes and had no time to save people. Okay. My buddy Jack lives in Calistoga. If you're not aware, Calistoga is where Mike Rupert ended his life or lost his life. Still not sure what happened there. Jack, if you're listening, I hope you're doing all right. Same to Aero Flora and Tacoma Vaught in Sebastopol, and all my other friends there in Sonoma County, where I used to live, helping Michael C. Rupert set up his Doomstead organic farm back in 2011, 2012. Sonoma County Sheriff Robert Giordano said officials are still investigating hundreds of reports of missing people and that recovery teams would begin conducting targeted searches for specific residents at their last known addresses. More than 8,000 firefighters were battling the blazes, and more manpower and equipment were pouring in from across the U.S. and as far as Australia and Canada, officials said. Since igniting Sunday in spots across 8 counties, okay, let's read that again. Since igniting Sunday in spots across 8 counties, the fires have transformed neighborhoods into wastelands. At least 3,500 homes and businesses have been destroyed, and an estimated 25,000 people forced to flee. The wildfires continue to grow in size. A total count of 22 fires Wednesday fell to 21 on Thursday because 2 large fires had merged together. Okay, what's disturbing here is that all these fires, if we can trust the mainstream media's reporting on this issue, it sounds like these 22 fires all started on Sunday. And that seems a little unusual to me because, you know, generally fires don't start across 8 counties simultaneously. Maybe they start, you know, if the conditions are right, if it's really windy, if it's really dry. Yeah, that makes some sense. But at the same time, to have them all start on exactly the same day seems a little unusual. Yesterday's video, we covered the notion of gray terror, fire used as a weapon. And we also asked the question, you know, we asked 2 questions. One, is it possible that these fires were intentionally started by some bad actor? And 2, have geoengineering programs that have caused a lingering drought in California contributed to these fires? Important questions to ask. You know, I woke up to the disturbing reality of these geoengineering programs when I was living in Sonoma County. I can say from firsthand experience that the Northern California region was getting hit real hard with geoengineering, with chemtrailing in the time frame when the drought began, 2011, 2012. Of course, last winter, California got a brief reprieve from the drought, right? Filled up all the reservoirs. They had some crazy, crazy, crazy storms. But what does that do? It causes a lot more vegetation to spring up. Then they get droughted again. Fires. Of course, particles, nano-sized particles of aluminum sprayed on the forests are fire accelerants and heat intensifiers as well. So our heart goes out to the people of Puerto Rico, the people of California, so on and so forth. Let's get into the paper. Okay, again, in Yellowstone, they're concerned about the viewscapes. A beaver bit a dog, a hunter killed the beaver. That's important front page news there. And then here in Jackson Hole, this guy's picking crab apples by the Wilson Elementary School. So the moose won't bother the students. Of course, moose got to eat too. Kind of sad. The wealthiest county in the world is seeking $15.3 million in grants from the federal government, U.S. Department of Transportation, to continue building their big old nasty-looking bus barn so they could ship workers in from Alpine, Victor, and Driggs, turning the entire valley over completely to the billionaires. Sad to say. Of course, if they really wanted to reduce traffic in the Jackson Hole area, they would make it a lot easier for people to live very close to where they work, ride their bikes to work, walk to work, or take a bus 5 minutes as opposed to an hour, right? We already covered Rick Perry's corrupt scam requiring power plants to keep 90 days of fuel on hand. Negro Bill Canyon returned to Blackstaff Canyon. Wildfires, Puerto Rico. Onward to the Vegas shooting. Thank you so much for tuning in. Show some support in those comments. It's kind of sad. Okay, hold on. There we go. Now I can see some comments here. Thank you so much for all the comments here. Sorry I haven't had a chance to read them, but we're getting into it now. Okay, the Vegas shooting. A lot of people have put their theories out there on the Vegas shooting. The whole situation stinks. You know, some people immediately classified it as a false flag, as a staged event. Here at Wake Up News, we like to let the blood dry and the evidence accumulate before we start making claims. But it sure looks like this was a staged event, or at the very least, the official story is nowhere close to reality. Yesterday we reported, well, I'll just read this to you. So the hotel and the police can't even get the timeline straight. Mandalay Bay hotel officials said Thursday that the Las Vegas gunman wounded a security guard in the hotel hallway within 40 seconds of firing into the crowd below, disputing a police timeline that put 6 minutes from the time the guard was shot and when Stephen Paddock began the worst mass shooting in recent U.S. history. They keep changing that. It's not the worst mass shooting in U.S. history, right? The worst mass shooting in U.S. history, I don't know, Civil War, you know, the genocide of the Native Americans. You know, if it's just one lone actor, that's what you call it, mass shooting. No, when a lot of people get shot, that's a mass shooting. Anyway, back on point. In the most recent chronology given by investigators Monday, police said Paddock sprayed 200 rounds into the hallway on the 32nd floor, wounding an unarmed security guard in the leg 6 minutes before he unleashed his barrage of bullets on the festival crowd. He killed 58 people and injured nearly 500 before taking his own life. Okay? So 6 minutes. 6 minutes before, according to the police, we can trust the police, the local sheriffs, who have been entrusted to protect people's lives. Why the heck, if this guy literally unloaded 200 rounds in the hallway of a Las Vegas casino hotel, A, they should know right away which floor the shooter's on because there'd be surveillance footage of this guy shooting up the hallway, right? Or at least some sort of alarm should go off, be it a fire alarm in his room because of all the smoke from shooting all this, or, you know, some motion detector alarm and a camera, whatever. You think, oh, and then people on the 32nd floor, the 31st floor, the 33rd floor, I imagine a lot of them probably got on their phones and called and said, hey, somebody's shooting up the hallway. You might want to send somebody up here, right? So, but now, 6 minutes before he opened fire on the crowd below, he opened fire on the hallway, according to the officials. And then it took the cops, after he opened fire, it took an additional 72 minutes for them to breach his room, okay? what the fuck? Pardon my French, but that's insane. You know, you watch so many movies about the modern police state and how advanced their technology is, how committed they are, and how hardcore the SWAT teams and the special forces guys of the world are. The story doesn't add up. In related news, David Coco Rico Sedano, one of our most committed viewers, excellent researcher, sent me this really interesting video. You know, a lot of people have looked at this situation from many different angles, and looking at or just listening to the audio, the basic audio recorded on cell phones of people at the event, it certainly sounds like this was a belt-fed machine gun. You know, Mike Adams at Natural Ruse has posited the hypothesis that there were at least 2 shooters based on forensic acoustic analysis. And this video that David sent sure makes it look like, or sure makes it sound like, I should say, the gun that was used, at least one of the guns used, if there were multiple guns, but one of the guns used was a belt-fed machine gun. And the reason for this is pretty easy to look at. I'll try to play the audio from this for you. See if it is loud enough so you can hear it. Gotta kill my reggae. Hold on. Okay, so the gist here is a AR-15 with a bump stock shoots at a rate of 14 rounds per second, whereas a belt-fed machine gun shoots at a rate of 10 rounds per second. So listen to this. So that's the Las Vegas shooting. That's an AR-15 with a bump stock. That's the Las Vegas shooting. And that's a belt-fed machine gun. There's the Vegas shooting again. So long story short, just through basic audio analysis of people's cell phone videos compared with videos found online of people shooting various machine guns, a belt-fed gun sounds like, right? Belt-fed machine gun, 10 rounds per second. It's like, whereas an AR-15 with a bump stock shoots 14 rounds per second, and it sounds more like, right? So just listening to the audio, it doesn't really add up. We could go on and on about the Vegas shooting, but the important thing is, 1, odds are this guy wasn't a lone actor. 2, you know, there's always this push for gun control in the wake of these mass shootings, but in reality, gun control is impossible in the United States. And what actually happens is scared, terrorized people buy a whole shitload more guns and ammunition, fueling the military-industrial complex, right? Of course, the largest gun dealer in the United States is Uncle Sam. The largest drug dealer in the United States is Uncle Sam, too, and, you know, arguably the medical establishment in this country. So, I don't know, it's interesting. And then number 3, the key thing here, media was calling for more surveillance technology, body scanners in hotels. We saw insider trading by folks like the management of MGM before this happened, what appears to be insider trading in the gun stocks before this happened. And yeah, I could go on and on. It's a frustrating situation. Again, guys like Alex Jones, you know, my personal opinion on Alex Jones, I think he's controlled opposition. I think he's a fearmonger. And he, before the blood was even dry, he was telling us that we're going to have a civil war in the wake of this, telling us that he predicted this event before it happened, tooting his own horn, spouting all his ridiculous fear-mongering theories. You know, I think this is just one of many false flag attacks, and not much is going to change in the wake of it. Although the notion of more security at hotels, right, just like we have more security at airports, right, protecting the elites that can afford to fly, protecting their private jets, protecting the covert geoengineering programs. On the same vein, having more security at really high-dollar resorts and casinos and convention centers and stadiums and so forth protects the elites, the powers that shouldn't be, because they're scared. They want to, they don't want to get assassinated. And as more and more people get pissed off, that becomes closer to a reality. But it also, justifies the government's existence, the totalitarian tiptoe of the police state, and it makes people live in fear. So it's sad. But so yeah, long story short, the hotel and police differ on their Vegas shooting timeline. Moving on here through the Jackson Hole Daily, we already covered the global obesity epidemic. Most disturbingly, for American kids ages 2 to 5, the rate for childhood obesity jumped to 14% from 9% in the last couple of years. Naturally, what is the mainstream media going to tell us in the wake of all these horrible hurricanes? Things like Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Maria, Hurricane Nate taking out Nicaragua and Central America. Of course, there's a poll out there telling us that global warming is blamed for these wild storms. I'm not a global warming denier. I'm not a climate change denier. I think humans are changing the climate. I think that humans have been warming the planet, but I'm more concerned about ongoing covert weather warfare, geoengineering programs, and various openly admitted weather modification programs currently ongoing all over the world. The World Meteorological Organization in 2013 openly reported that I think it's 53 countries, maybe it's 43 countries, but big countries like China, Russia, Canada, Mexico, Chile, Argentina, France, Germany, the UK, all openly acknowledging that they have a national level weather modification program, right? You have that many big actors attempting to make the weather more profitable, more beneficial to their territories, is going to drastically affect the climate, right? Playing God with the weather, even on a small scale, probably not a very good idea. And on a big scale, maybe it would work, but there would have to be a whole lot of oversight. People would have to know exactly what's going on. Of course, weather weaponry is the ultimate weapon, right? You got control of the weather. You can cause droughts over your enemies. You can cause natural disasters over your enemies. You can improve the weather for yourself. Stranger than fiction. But that's the world we live in. Moving on to business news. Nothing too exciting in the markets. Equifax got hacked again. No big surprise there. It's interesting when the nation's largest credit reporting company is getting hacked. Like, it's crazy. UPI reporting today, credit rating agency Equifax announced Thursday part of its website has been taken offline after a security analyst found evidence it had been hacked. The revelation came 1 month after Equifax, one of the nation's three major credit ratings agencies, announced it was the target of one of the largest data breaches in U.S. history, affecting an estimated 145.5 million people whose private financial and identification information was hacked. Equifax, blah, blah, blah. On Wednesday night, a blogger for the tech site Ars Technica said he was attempting to download his credit report from Equifax. When he clicked the link, he was presented with another link to download a version of the common Adobe Flash Player software. The trick is a common one for hackers who are seeking to install malicious software or malware that can capture users' keystroke and other data and transmit it back to the author. Okay, so Equifax's website. You go there, you get a prompt to download Adobe Flash Acrobat. I hate Adobe Flash. It's so annoying when those things pop up, isn't it? But in reality, Equifax was literally distributing keystroke software for some hacker. Stranger than fiction. And strangely, for some reason, Equifax's stock has not gone to zero. It was at about $140 a share before all this shit came out. Then it dropped to about 90. Now it's back up to 110. I don't know, man. You'd think that if you failed that substantially, you're done. But too big to fail. Sadly, the world we live in. China will compel Saudi Arabia to trade oil in yuan, and that's going to affect the U.S. dollar. Of course, we've lived in a world with the petrodollar system since 1971, the Bretton Woods Agreement, where Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. Carl Weinberg, chief economist and managing director of High Frequency Economics, told CNBC, "I believe that yuan pricing of oil is coming, and as soon as the Saudis move to accept it, as the Chinese will compel them to do, then the rest of the oil market will move along with them." In recent years, several nations opposed to the dollar being the world's reserve currency have progressively sought to try to abandon it. Folks like Venezuela, where they're currently experiencing 2,300% hyperinflation. OPEC kingpin Saudi Arabia is at the crux of the petrodollar system. So we'll see what happens there. In other international news, people, distancing themselves from the U.S., this failing empire that we all call home. Reuters reporting today, Trump's Iran plans are driving the EU toward Russia and China, says Germany. Coming out of Berlin, U.S. President Donald Trump's expected move to decertify the international nuclear deal with Iran is driving a wedge between Europe and the United States and bringing Europeans closer to Russia and China, Germany said on Thursday. German Foreign Minister Sigmar Gabriel has spoken out repeatedly against Trump's likely step, but his latest comments aim to spell out the impact it would have in starker terms. It's imperative that Europe sticks together on this issue, Gabriel, a social democrat, told the R&D German newspaper group. We also have to tell the Americans that their behavior on the Iran issue will drive us Europeans into a common position with Russia and China against the USA. So the biggest bully on the block taking a hit on all fronts. Russiagate. Meanwhile, while the whole world's against old Uncle Sam, the dirty old man, we're all concerned still about the potential that Russia might have hacked the U.S. elections. Interestingly, so the Facebook COO favors the release of Russia ads. What's funny here, a few weeks ago, when they shifted the Russiagate story away from, when they kept finding, there's no basis to these claims, they shifted it to, the Russians bought advertising on Facebook and Google and YouTube. So there you go. There's the proof of Russiagate right there. They bought advertising. But the funny thing here, they don't mention anymore. They did mention it in early coverage that the Facebook ads purchased only amounted to tens of thousands of dollars of advertising. Okay? Hillary Clinton's campaign spent hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising. So I'm pretty sure a couple of Russians spending $10,000, less than $100,000 on advertising did not sway the election in the least. Coming from the Big Lie on the Black Agenda report, we got a good little commentary on this situation. I'm going to read it to you. Thank you so much for all the comments here, by the way. I wish I had time to read them all. I'm so grateful that you're all here chiming in. I look forward to reading these when you're done. But back to Russiagate. Russiagate, The Lie Implodes by Glenn Ford, Black Agenda Report executive editor, published yesterday, the 11th of October, 2017. The alleged war against U.S. democracy turns out to have been a cheap clickbait hustle. To promote war without end, we got lies without end, all orbiting around the black, empty hole called Russiagate. The attempt to pin Donald Trump's election on the Russians is collapsing into utter absurdity. One of the most dangerous lies ever told has come totally undone, lost in the endless pages of Facebook. Russiagate is the conspiracy that never was, a tale spun by Democrats and corporate media manipulators who did everything they could to make Trump a viable candidate for president, only to be defeated by him in the Electoral College. Trump's unpredictability, his occasional questioning of U.S. permanent war policies, unnerved the military and the intelligence operatives of the empire. The spooks said they were confident that it was the Russians, not WikiLeaks, who hacked into the bowels of Hillary Clinton's campaign. Anybody who's actually following this story knows that it was an inside leak. Seth Rich, DNC staffer, physically took these emails with access to the site, gave them to WikiLeaks. Seth Rich turns up dead shortly thereafter, after he leaked them to WikiLeaks. More important than who leaked these emails is what's in them. All sorts of disturbing shit. Lincoln, the Clinton campaign, the pedophilia, and all sorts of other nastiness. The spooks finally admitted they had no proof, and nearly a year after the election, it is clear that no evidence of Russian culpability in the affair exists. Russiagate is, in the words of the media mercenary Van Jones, a nothing burger. And yet, it is a lie that was endlessly amplified and expanded upon because it serves those with an interest in permanent global conflict. So to promote war without end, we got lies without end, all orbiting around the black, empty hole called Russiagate. Based on no facts and no evidence, a non-existent electronic break-in grew into a massive Russian campaign to disrupt U.S. elections in 2016. But the Russiagate mob had discovered that it's hard to feed an infinitely expanding lie. Inevitably, they have had to scale back their inquisition. Way back. I'm going to paste this in here for you, too. I'm reading this whole thing because this is powerful rhetoric by a very talented writer. I'm really enjoying reading it. Having failed to make the case for collusion between Vladimir Putin and Trump, and with no evidence that Russians or any other foreigners tampered with U.S. voting machinery, the Russiagate Inquisition shifted their attention to social media, and especially Facebook. Under intense pressure from Democrats in Congress, Facebook declared that it had discovered advertising purchases by people in Russia thought to have ties to the Kremlin. But it turns out the ads cost less than $100,000 over 2 years, a budget unworthy of any state actor, even from the smallest and poorest of nations. It turns out most of the ads are clickbait hustles, whose messages are designed to attract eyeballs and earn payouts, not shape the destiny of nations. It's a hit and miss business. 25% of the ads weren't seen by anybody. More than half of the ads were shown after the 2016 election and couldn't have changed anybody's mind about who to support. Half the ads cost the buyer $3 or less. The supposedly Russian ads dealt with a wide spectrum of issues, from hobbies to politics to puppies. For those ads that discuss politics, the message was as likely to be left-leaning as right-leaning. Anything that might get clicks. So much for the war that Uncle Morgan Freeman says Russia is waging against the U.S. Since there's no political pattern to the ads, the Russiagate mob now claims that the Kremlin is deliberately pushing contradictory messages through its clickbait ads in order to create chaos in American society, all for less than $50,000 a year. The great threat to U.S. democracy has dissolved into nothingness, from whence it came. That's Glenn Ford at the Black Agenda Report. I think I pasted that in for you. Pretty powerful words from an excellent writer there at the BAR. But long story short, the mainstream media, come on, Jackson Hole Daily, get your heads out of the sand. Russiagate is a dead story, okay? If you want to talk about, collusion in elections, let's go back to 2001 when the election was stolen by Bush 2, so on and so forth. Rose McGowan letting the Twitterverse know that Harvey Weinstein raped her. I hope all these creepy pedophiles in California consume themselves. Here in the U.S., buyers are favoring luxury pickups costing about 50 grand. Of course, the average American consumer cannot come even close to affording a $50,000 pickup truck. But, there's plenty of baby boomers, property owners, people with assets who can, in the wake of the QE Infinity scam, putting a lot more money in the pockets of people that already have a lot of money while screwing over the rest of us. Proof of that, Zero Hedge reporting yesterday, millennials have never been more in debt and is creating a major risk for the economy. Okay, yeah. If you didn't have a lot of money before the Great Recession, you probably haven't made a lot of money after it. More proof coming out of the New York Times on October 10th. 10% of New York City public school students were homeless last year. It's a big deal, but what do we got here? The people that have a lot of money, the billionaires in the United States, people with a lot of loot, they're buying themselves, they're building themselves $15 to $20 million log cabins in Jackson Hole. It's absurd, right? I mean, look, we live in a world where on a budget of $0 a month, actually, that's not true. That's not true. Brian Peterson, my first Patreon donor, gave me a whopping $18 a month, and I'm sure grateful for that. That's right. I finally have one Patreon supporter here supporting Wake Up Wyoming and my other efforts to become a mainstream media mogul long term. No, I'm kidding. Independent media, voice for truth and reason, and I need your support. So if you can help out in any way, check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/Max Mogren. Send me some money because I am on the road to financial ruin myself at the moment. And I'd like to keep doing this. I'd like to not have to go back to a slave job. I'm putting it in the links. There it is. Check it out. I got one patron. After Patreon gets their cut, I get $16 a month. But thank you, Brian Peterson. Thanks also to Jill, who made a donation via PayPal last month. Yeah. What else we got in the news today? So Russiagate, bunch of BS. The Mises Institute, in a cashless world, you better pray the power never goes out. I was going to link that into my Puerto Rico coverage, but didn't have a chance. But yeah, think about it. In a cashless world, if you don't have precious metals, if you don't have physical currency, you know, obviously modern money is just paper, but people believe it has value. So if you don't have precious metals, you don't have, you know, physical currency of some kind, what do you do when the cell networks go down? What do you do when the internet goes down? What do you do when the power goes out and all you got is digital money? Think about it. Speaking of things going down, Zero Hedge reporting yesterday at 12:22 p.m. Facebook and Instagram experiencing extreme outages as complaints pile up. Facebook and Instagram are down for thousands of users around the world yesterday, with websites, 2 days ago, with websites like Outage Report recording extreme outages in the U.S., Hungary, Kosovo, Germany, Poland, and other countries. The sites went down shortly after 11 a.m. This is the second widespread outage for both social networks. Instagram's owned by Facebook. I didn't know that until today. Did you know that? In less than 2 months. Facebook blamed the most recent outage, which occurred on August 26th, on unspecified technical issues. Okay? So, yeah, Facebook wasn't working a couple of days ago. You know, what happens when these social media networks go down? Or what happens if they continue censoring the independent media? We've seen this recently in the wake of the Las Vegas shooting, YouTube changing their algorithms so conspiracy videos don't come up in the top results, although arguably these are just people analyzing the situation, trying to make sense of it. Of course, there are a bunch of loonies out there too, but they deserve a place to share their opinions as well, right? Anyway, what happens when social media networks go down? We should probably be building email databases. I'd like to get on that. But just one more thing. And Reuters, last headline here today before we get into the scopes. Reuters reports on the 11th that Trump suggests challenging TV network licenses over fake news. U.S. President Donald Trump suggested challenging licenses for NBC and other broadcast news networks following reports by NBC News that his Secretary of State had called him a moron after a discussion of the U.S. nuclear deal. With all the fake news coming out of NBC and the networks, at what point is it appropriate to challenge their license? Bad for country, Trump, a Republican, wrote in his post on Twitter on Wednesday. So, yeah, it'd be kind of cool if Trump shut down the mainstream news networks. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Trump is really on our side so much as he's designed to be the divider and distractor and depressor in chief, right? Just like the mainstream media. Trump's always railing against the mainstream media, but him and the media both, it's kind of like a two-headed dragon coming after the American people, because Trump distracts people. The mainstream media distracts people. Trump divides people. The mainstream media divides people, right? Trump depresses a whole lot of people. The mainstream media depresses a whole lot of people. I could go on and on with these duh words, but yeah, that's the whole point. Trump destroys a lot of things. The mainstream media destroys a lot of things. So yeah, thanks for tuning in today. Wow, we're already an hour into this. It's amazing. I'm really not this verbose and wordy in real life, but you put me in front of a camera and I can just talk all damn day. Funny, I'll go all day. I might say 10 words to other people. But once I get in front of this lovely audience here at Wake Up News, I just tee off. Anybody want their scopes read? Drop it in the comments there. I'll try to read them to you. Again, if you feel like supporting my work, check out my Patreon page. Certainly appreciate it. I am no longer working a slave job. This is my 5th Wake Up Wyoming video this week. Trying to do a good job bringing you the news in an informative and fun manner. And up the game. Here's the scopes for the day. Who wants their scope read? Lay it on me. Again, some people say don't read the horoscopes. They're occult nonsense. But yeah. What are people saying here? There's a lot of comments. I wish I could read them all. There's so many. It's great. All right. Shannon Wendricks wants Libra. Here we go. 4-star day for you, Shannon. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. As always, it's great connecting with you on Facebook. To Shannon and anybody out there, if you find stories you think I should be reporting on, send them my way. But don't send them to Wake Up News. Send them to me directly because Wake Up News gets barraged with messages, and I don't have time to go through hundreds of messages per day. So you're in the inner sanctum, so to speak. Add me as a friend and send them directly. I appreciate that. 4-star day for you, Shannon. You feel upbeat and energized. I hope you do. Make sure you clear out as much work as possible. Reach out to a close friend or loved one, and you will feel very content as a result. Express your willingness to open up and do more sharing. Tonight, join a friend for dinner at a favorite spot. Rosa Sandoval Jarek, thank you for tuning in, Rosa. Scorpio, here we go. 4-star day for you, Rosa. With Jupiter in your sign, whatever you opt to do will prove to be successful. Though this planet can provide wisdom, it can also encourage overindulgence and good luck. You might see the benefits of this today. Admirers seem to be everywhere. Tonight, out and about. So enjoy your admirers, your good luck, and your overindulgence, Rosa. Just keep it in check. Don't want to join that 40% of American adults who are obese. Jason Pfeiffer looking for Gemini. 5-star day for you, Jason. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep expressing your views about what you expect from another person. Your gentle nature mixes well with your intellectual side. Don't hesitate to show off your skills right now. You seem to have a lot of energy, Jason. Focus your abilities accordingly. Tonight, chat the night away, Jason. So enjoy your evening. Renee Escamilla wants the Cancer. Not that kind, but the horoscope type. 3-star day for you, Renee. Be careful with your spending, especially since you might want to spruce up your image. Try not to do any wild spending or go overboard in any way. Your creativity comes out no matter what you're doing, Renee. Others will seek your feedback. Tonight, get into the moment. Okay, Inga, thank you for tuning in, Inga. Taurus, that's me too. We're the bulls in the china shop of modern civilization. And it just so happens that we both are having a 4-star day today. You seem to be focused on a loved one or a potential sweetie. Ain't that the truth? You could feel pushed by others and by familial obligations. That's probably true too. You have a caring attitude that attracts others' attention and sometimes devotion. Thank you all for tuning in. Someone you care about dominates the day. Tonight, head home first. So there we go, Inga. You and I are on the same wavelength today, apparently, according to the stars. I don't know if it's all true. What else do we got? Capricorn for Sue. And then, Brian, we're getting into Aries. Thank you, Brian, again, for being my first Patreon donor. Sue Green, here we go. Capricorn, 4-star day. A loved one might opt to share some important details with you. You'll need to work with this person, especially if the matter in question involves finances, a major life decision, and or a strong premonition. Go with the flow as you seek more information. Tonight, Sue Green, be near music. Brian Peterson, here we go. Thanks again. Brian, a role model for all the rest of you because he does, in fact, put his money where his mouth is and support the independent media. I love you, Brian. It was great talking on the phone with you yesterday. You ever want someone to talk to, call me up. You having a 4-star day, by the way, Mr. Peterson. You are full of energy, which makes you more vulnerable to fighting or becoming impatient. Focus on making an adjustment at home. You might have lots of options, but don't feel as if you need to push yourself to make a fast decision. Tonight, celebrate the weekend. Thank God it's Friday, Friday the 13th, whatever. I don't buy into much of that, but it's Friday the 13th, and we're reading horoscopes, so maybe I do. I don't know. But Brian Peterson, I hope you remember what we talked about yesterday. I know that I do. It's a great extended phone conversation, and I hope that it was as beneficial for you as it was for me. Gonzalo Perez Jr. says, awesome reporting. Great work. Shannon Wendrick saying, I did make jam this morning. What flavor of jam did you make? Gonzalo Perez Jr., you're looking for Leo, the lion. Man, I've had trouble with those female Leos in the past. You're having a 4-star day, Senor Perez. Your charisma and energy soar to new heights, making it easier for you to share your ideas with a roommate or loved one. You might be prepared to open up a personal situation. How you see this matter could change significantly as you opt for a valid answer. Tonight, be enthusiastic, Mr. Perez, Senor Gonzalo Perez Jr., Karen J. Bowden, yeah, you're having a 4-star day, you Scorp. So remember, admirers seem to be everywhere. I know I'm one of them. Cheer up, Karen. Let's look on the bright side. And tonight, I know you're a party animal, Karen, so get out and about. Clayton Best, thanks for tuning in. Muggsy, Kevin Jarvis Shot, looking for the Pisces. Pisces, please. 3-star day, watch out. That's as low as they go in the scopes generally, Muggsy. Get more involved with certain elements of your daily life. A new interest could be evolving, which you might want to share with others. Relax more with your coworkers and loved ones. Better understanding between you will prove to be an asset. Tonight, out and about. And Chi-Town Nista, what's up? I haven't seen any of your videos lately, Chi-Town. You still doing them? I hope you are. I hope you are. Let's get into your Virgo. 3-star day for you, Chi-Town. So you might want to lay low. You could feel out of kilter. Give yourself several days to recover and get back on track. You have been dealing with strong energy lately, which could have manifested itself emotionally and or physically. Find a way to let off some steam. Tonight, like I said, Chi-Town, lay low, not to be found. So there we go. Thank you all for tuning in. Your wife's a Leo. Yeah, Daniel. I don't have a wife. I've tried to catch a few Leos as wives, and it just didn't work. Brian, it was great talking with you, too. Aries always have the day they want. I guess that's what happens when you're a ram, right? Let me read it for you. Oh, I already read that one. So, yeah. Wow, scary. Thank you. You got it, Muggsy. Oh, you're on YouTube, Chi-Town, right out. Iron Jawed Guru. Your wife's a Leo, David. Watch out. Chris Cookie Seville, one love to you, too. And on that note, I'm signing off for the day. That's your Wake Up Wyoming for October 13th, 2017. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm trying to make it go as independent media exclusively. Man, I would love to just hit the road and do this show, reporting from the back of my 1988 Jeep Comanche as I rally around the world trying to figure out what's really going on and share that information with all of you. Give me a chance to take it easy on the Jackson Hole Daily. I have this sinking suspicion they're going to start trying to sue my ass pretty soon if I keep shredding their papers on camera. But, sorry, it's what I do. Like I said, the Jackson Hole Daily is a pretty good paper as far as newspapers go. Of course, it's full of lies, omissions, obfuscations, easily refuted things like Russiagate. And a lot of it's propaganda. On top of that, it's 70% advertising, 20% fluff, and only about 10% news. Whereas here at Wake Up News, we try to give you 100%. And somehow, some way, almost every single day, we go for about 40 to 70 minutes. I don't know how we do it. I guess it's just because all of you inspire me. So I'm going to go give that dog a love, as Theo Von Blaschek says. Pom-pom paper, yeah, Chi-Town, I know. I've been go work on my high kicks right now and going to have a lovely day. So thank you all for tuning in. Stay active, stay aware, stay hopeful despite the negativity in the mainstream. Take care of yourself. Take care of the ones you love. Stay hydrated. Don't let the man get you down, and fight the power. It's your boy Mog signing off for you. I'll be back soon. One love. Peace.